Here it is. This is the non-stimulus bill, over 1,000 pages, was made available at 11 o'clock last night. Remarkable activity here. We've got handwritten notes on here. This one here on page 9, title 4, says, strikes out for necessary expenses, which means they can use it for anything they want. Got another one here that'll show you how Washington works. Handwritten notes on here. Here we've got $100 million crossed out and substituted in handwriting $150 million. That's page 20 of Title 10. This is how your Congress works.
That was Georgia Representative Tom Price, and he is now with us. Congressman, thank you for being on Hannity. We appreciate it, sir.
Hey, Sean, good to be with you.
All right, you know something? Barack Obama promised this wouldn't be the case, that we'd have time, that we'd be able to look over this, that we'd have transparency in government like we'd never had before. So you didn't even have time to read through, what, a third of it, 25% of it? How much time did you actually have? Nobody did.
Nobody had time to read it. It was released at midnight last night, and the vote was after 90 minutes of debate today. In fact, the Congress 48 hours ago said that the bill ought to sit, unanimously said that the bill ought to sit for 48 hours so that everybody could have a chance to read it. Nobody read this bill, Sean, I promise you.
Why, and you're pointing out the sloppiness of it. I mean, it seems like this bill was, even the New York Times said it was like written in the 1970s versus 2009, you know, with notes in the margin, as you were pointing out on this web video here. Why did they do it this way? Was it because Nancy Pelosi had a trip, she had to meet the Pope, she had to go to Rome, she had to accept an award? Why wouldn't they give the American people time to digest what's actually in the bill?
Well, I think two things. One is that they could. Because of the numbers they've got in Congress right now, they can ram anything they want through. And the longer it sits on the table, the more the American people appreciate and understand what's in the bill. And they know that this isn't popular with the American people. The American people understand that you can't borrow and spend this kind of money and bring our economy back. It just won't work.
All right, but now the president's telling the American people, and this is verbatim, there are no pet projects in the bill, there is no earmarks in the bill. Did the president tell the American people the truth?
Well, what you've said earlier on your show is that there's an earmark for an earmark. There's $8 billion for this railroad train from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. That certainly is put in there for Senator Reid. There's $400 million for climate change. There's $10 million to study urban canals, and it goes on and on and on.
Congressman,
none of this stimulative.
What is an urban canal?
I don't know, Sean. You tell me. I found this afternoon after the vote in the bill $1.6 billion for, quote, science, unquote. Yeah. That's all it said.
Just science, whatever science we feel like. Look, I think maybe I'm going to go in the scientific community. I have a few experiments I'd like to run in my life. Well, but in all seriousness here, you know, we add up the interest in this bill, $1.2, $1.3 trillion on top of the $700 billion we talked about earlier. Nancy Pelosi gets $30 million for her district, the wetlands conservation in San Francisco, yes, for the salt marsh harvest mouse. What is a salt marsh harvest mouse?
I don't know, but I tell you, Sean, you're absolutely right. It would be humorous if it weren't so serious. This is incredibly irresponsible because it won't work, and it's actually extremely selfish because it's robbing from future generations. Yeah. And the worst thing is that there are real solutions out there. We've put them on the table, things that will, in fact, stimulate the economy and invigorate the economy and grow jobs.
Congressman, I want you to explain specifically, and I've talked to Newt Gingrich about this, when Republicans took power for the first time in 40 years, they allowed the Democrats into the process. They changed the rules. They allowed them to offer alternative bills, amendments to bills. This year, and it got very little press notice, Nancy Pelosi shut down the opportunities for the minority party to offer alternative bills. That happened this year. Explain to everybody what this means.
Absolutely. What's happened is that Speaker Pelosi and the majority Democrats have changed the rules of the House that were in place for over 100 years. That gave the minority party, whichever party was the minority party, the right to offer an alternative at the very end of debate and make it go back to committee. And the importance of that is that it could actually then be changed. This was put in place, I believe, because it makes it impossible to identify tax increases in a bill and make it so that you turn them into tax cuts. That's not possible any longer.
Well, I want also, if you can, Congressman, to explain to the American people, because I agree with you. Had they had the 48 hours, had we had an opportunity to debate this, had they not snuck this in late on a Friday, as they are currently doing, I believe that there'd be resistance to it. There'd probably be market reaction. So far, it's been pretty negative towards the bill as it's been proposed. But what is the usual process? Don't you have committees that are assigned to examine each and every single aspect of what goes into legislation?
Yeah, the legislation is supposed to go through a subcommittee initially and then through a committee. And at each point in that process, you get an opportunity to amend it, get votes on amendments. It's called perfecting the bill. And then when a bill passes one chamber, it goes to the next chamber. So this one went from the House to the Senate. And then the Senate works its will. And then those two, the Senate and the House, come together for a conference committee, which is what this report was. The problem with it is that Republicans in the House were shut out at every single turn.
Well, I hope the American people are hearing you, Congressman. This is bad for the country. We've tried to warn people, but hopefully we'll have a chance at some point to rescind some of the spending. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thank you so much. Time for the American people to stand up and fight.
And coming up, details are coming to light about what some are calling an $8 billion earmark that Senator Harry Reid slipped